DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
All right, everybody, welcome into Concrete Jungle for the week of May 4th. Paul Russo and Kyle Evans here with you. Gonna be an interesting episode. Might be more Yankee heavy this week, kind of unfortunately de facto. Coming to you here obviously on Monday with the news of John Sterling's passing. We also have, I feel like, maybe a hair more interesting stuff with them going on this week, admittedly, than the Mets, but not that there's not anything going on there, obviously. So, Kyle, we'll just kind of jump right into it here. We'll begin on the John Sterling news, obviously, this morning breaking that he passed away. And it's interesting, I think, for maybe, I think our kind of age group, it's an interesting spot because, like, I recognized his voice, but I think the way the media and the medium of how we consumed and still are consuming Yankee games really changed in our lifetimes, right? With the creation of Yes Network and kind of the visual component, right, of Yankee baseball being a bit more widespreadly available. I think a lot of people younger than us don't understand the significance of John Sterling in a true sense. Not that maybe they didn't, because I think even for us, we maybe just don't understand his greatness, right? Like, he was more than just, and I know like a lot of people recognize him, right, as the Yankee broadcaster on the radio, but like, you know, this was a guy who had stops, for example, like in Atlanta and doing like NFL games. And like, he really transcended more than just Yankee baseball and how we consumed it, obviously on the audio only, the radio side of things. Really just a truly deep career spanning decades and a true impact left on not just Yankee baseball or baseball, but really sports and that consumption in general.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with all those points. And for me, there was just times where, you're not always in front of the TV and you might be in the car, and it was just so easy to turn on WFAN and hear his voice. And, him and Susan Waldman, of course, have done it for years. And, I just think his calls obviously are, what sticks out the most, even with non-Yankee fans. I mean, they're just so creative. And I thought he just did such a good job at, like, when you don't have the visual, just breaking down, how the game was actually unfolding and like really describing it, and just these like unusual terms that a lot of people don't use, but like you just loved it and appreciated it for the way it was called. And obviously we knew, when he retired a couple years ago now, that he was getting older, and it seemed to be like he was still in pretty good health. But as you get older, and with anyone, it's, you just never know when your last day is going to come. And unfortunately, that was today. And you look all over the sports world, I see a lot of messages from, again, non-Yankee fans, just people in sports, just kind of talking about him and all the memories and the postseason games he's done. And I saw a stat too that was pretty eye-popping. 47.5% of all postseason games he called in Yankees franchise history. So nearly half of their postseason games in franchise history he has called on the radio. And of course, even when he's been retired, he's said in podcasts and stuff that he's watched every game since. Even when he's missed time, when he was still working, he would watch from home while sick. So this is a guy that just, lived and breathed baseball constantly and was just a huge Yankee fan, and no matter what year it was. So it definitely sucks, and rest in peace to him. But great career, great guy, and I know a lot of people loved him.
Yeah, and you brought up some good points, and I think a lot of it help. Like, the fan is really was the first of its kind and really widespread in terms of sports radio, and obviously the Yankees latched on pretty quick. early on for live game broadcasts. And yeah, he did a couple games last year, I think, filling in, right? As far
Yeah, I
as
think
I
so. Yep.
so um yeah, it's just one of those things, right? You get to your late 80s, not to be morbid about it, but like you mentioned, right? I mean, it's just one of those things. It's a fact of life, unfortunately. And yeah, too, as well, to kind of maybe bow tie this, really a bit of a throwback too, in a way. I know, I mean, even I found some of the stuff a little bit corny later on, right? Some of the sayings and stuff like that, but really a throwback to when broadcasts were truly local slash regionalized, in the sense of like, um, these guys who really were ingrained within the team, right? And able to play off of those type of things and stuff like that. Where now, don't get me wrong, I not to really weave different things in and out here, but like, you'll get a guy say, like, for example, like Jason Benetti, and like I love him, right? And he does a fantastic job, but you can tell he's a much more um, neutral observer in a way, right? Sterling, I mean, even in those final moments, one of the clips I saw today was of him calling the Yankees base runners drunk in that Cleveland postseason game a few years ago, right? With the base running as usual, as we still see every now and then. Just one of those things where, he really did it his way. Kind of a nod to, I guess, a lot of New Yorkers, right? New Yorker through and through, John Sterling to the very end. And just a true glimpse into what baseball was, is, and probably still will be in the years to come.
Yeah, you said that exactly how I would say it. Just he was his own person. He did things that, some might think some of the calls were corny, some might have loved him, but just he was so authentic in the way he operated and didn't, copy anyone. Like, you see some guys, probably newer guys nowadays, they might try to like reference other people in the past, maybe just because they liked them growing up. But this guy was just everything he said was just his call. I mean, and the fact that he could think of things on the fly so quickly. Like, I mean, guys would get traded over there to New York, and the next day, if they had a home run, he'd have a call ready to go. And it just his mind was just so creative and well done. And of course, his later days, the last few years of his career, there was times where, we talked about it. It was probably eyesight wasn't the greatest. And he kind of, have some bad calls and it would go
Mhm.
viral for it. But, I think he just tried to do it so long because he loved it and he probably didn't really have anything else to do and he didn't want to go sit home. He'd rather sit at the ballpark. So you have to respect that. He just loved the game. And yeah, it is a sad day though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. You do something you love and you enjoy, you don't want to give it up, even though you probably should. Technically, I think
Yeah.
we've all been in that spot in different forms of life, right? Like, I'll put a hand up. I played baseball until I was batting 100 in my, and that's just not. It's a look, as a baseball podcast, we know that no matter what level, it's just not feasible. So, um, you know, it's just one of those things. And yeah, I mean, even then though, he was still pretty sharp as attack, all things considered, up
Yeah.
until the very end. So, um, I think the best way to maybe move on is continue on talking some baseball here in honor of John Sterling for this podcast. So we will get right to that. Yeah, we'll circle back to the Volpe stuff here because I think it kind of plays into how well the Yankees have been playing, right? They win the series down in Texas, come back up north here, home game, home series against Baltimore right now. They have 3 of 4 already, so they'll win the series there. They're going for a 4-game sweep tonight. And then they have 3 more coming up here at home against Texas and then back on the road against Milwaukee. But, again, just another pretty decent week all the way around in the grand scheme of it, right? Nothing to really get upset about. It's kind of weird how I think the worst part about the week is um I feel bad, was it his best stuff on Wednesday? Maybe not, but Elmer Rodriguez I thought showed really well in his big league debut. And it's kind of one of the lone times here in the past couple weeks the offense just no showed in a game in some way, shape, or form. And um if that's the only true downside of a week for a baseball team, I think, again, like I've been saying, you'll take that, all things considered.
Yeah, once again, the pitching, was there. I mean, you mentioned Rodriguez, and then the bullpen, Jake Bird, I believe that was the game where he gave up a run or two late, but yeah, like the offense just couldn't do anything against Nathan Volpe, who just seems to have their number over the years. And it was just, it was also getaway day. I mean, they were going to a
Yeah.
new city after that. They had Thursday an off day, and it was just kind of a lifeless game. But then, yeah, for them to go and take three in a row against the Orioles, and then to see the last two games and putting up 20 runs, and it seems like the whole lineup's kind of getting going here. You see Ryan McMahon season high 3 hits, believe that was yesterday or if
Hmm.
not Saturday.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's just good to see. And you just knew right off the bat, when the first few weeks were going on, that this wouldn't continue and their offense would get better. And I think we're seeing it. I mean, Jazz has been so much better. Obviously Ben Rice has been amazing. Aaron Judge is really getting going. So even though I've said I don't feel like the team is as fun as some years past, I mean, you look at the numbers, they're literally one of the best teams in the league, especially in the AL. Run differential, everything. They're pitching, they're now scoring runs or home runs. So yeah, you got to like what you see.
Yeah, I mean, and I know you brought up the fact just over the weekend, but they also win 7-2 on Friday. So you look at it from like maybe that broader perspective, right? That's what, 27-9? Yeah,
Yep.
27-9. They've outscored the Orioles in this series so far. So it's like, okay, like again, things could be much worse. You'll take them as they come. I know we can maybe dive into some little intricate stuff here. Obviously, it seems you mentioned Ben Rice. There's not immediate concern right now regarding it's kind of funny. I've actually done this before myself with a pickoff play, um, where you as a first baseman, right, you want to make sure that you're blocking at least the ball in some way, shape, or form when it's in the dirt on a pickoff play like that. And I think it's tough with a guy like Fried, where his pickoff move is so good, you even just might not be even expecting it as a first baseman, even if you kind of know it might be coming. That it looked like he was trying to make sure that he blocked enough of the ball with his glove. It just seemed like he just, like you said, he just kind of jammed the palm in there, aggravates it in a later at bat. X-rays negative, kind of seems like it's going to be some sort of day-to-day-esque type thing, but it doesn't seem like the concern, at least right now, is immediately there.
Yeah, and it's definitely probably just bruised and going to be sore. And then the good news is, even though fans don't like to hear this, and I didn't really want them to sign him back either, but it's not like they have a terrible replacement coming in. Paul Goldschmidt, the better, he's going to give you good defense over there at first. At times he's going to hit. So if he needs to miss a few days, I wouldn't think it's the end of the world, but it does suck because he was in such a rhythm. After his home run early yesterday, he had the best batting average in the league. Or was it the AL or just the league? I can't remember. Don't have the number, but it was
Hmm.
like 336. Just unbelievable stuff from Ben Rice. Power and average right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull that up really quickly here because he's at 343 right now. And let's see.
Oh yeah, he did get a second hit. I
It
forgot
is
before he
the
left.
yeah, it's the best in the AL. Um, he's trailing. I mean, it's tough right now, but Idemelo Vargas for the Diamondbacks at 382 is kind of absurd right now. But
Yeah.
even then, I mean, he's got Shea Langoliers for the Sacramento A's by 7 points right now for the AL lead. So tough to really be upset about that. Again, keeps bringing that up, but it's just the way it is right now. Um, yeah, let's address another one of the quote unquote elephants in the room here. Anthony Volpe reinstated off the injured list, and the Yankees, I think, did the thing that me and you figured certainly could be on the table. And for sure, at least for me, I didn't think they were actually going to pull the trigger, but they optioned him to AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre. And I go back to something I think I mentioned a little bit last week to you, Kyle. I just think this is the Yankees, um, the run it back Yankees, kind of at the same token, though, playing with this urgency of like, okay, we have a guy in Caraballo right now who's just like uh, playing just absurdly good. Caballero, sorry, got two different guys on the brain right there. um, but like playing just so good that like you can't afford to take him out of the lineup. And I I don't think I fully saw it coming where they were actually going to option Volpe when he got reinstated from the IL, and they did.
Yeah, I was definitely shocked. I did start thinking that it was a possibility that they would, though, over the weekend, because the way Aaron Boone was talking when asked about questions. And but when it finally came across, I'm like, wow, like it just seems like if that was like last year or any other year prior, when Volpe entered the league, that, he'd just be right back up, and, he'd struggle and they would defend him over and over again. And then Caballero would just have to sit after literally hitting over 300 over the last 15 games, and doing a good job defensively. And of course, he's just as fast as Volpe on the bases. And if not faster, I think he's probably faster. Um, he does everything that, like, Volpe really can't do.
Mhm.
Volpe just hasn't been able to consistently hit in a long time. He might have a 5, 6 game stretch, but nothing like a 15 game stretch that Caballero's doing right now. Um, so I was just happy to see that. I guess people are right on social media. I've been seeing it, but the urgency is definitely different. Some of the roster moves, just you wouldn't have seen that in years past. So hopefully they're just finally learning. It just sucks that it's 2026 and now they're finally learning. I mean, how many of these moves could have been made years prior that maybe actually would have made a huge impact earlier in the season in terms of even winning divisional titles?
Mhm.
I mean, you saw last year they missed by a game. I mean, imagine if they had urgency like that in in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too. I think was it forgive me if I have my timeline a little bit wrong here, but I think it was Friday when Jack Curry kind of teased the fact that, or might have been even Thursday, where it was just like, yeah, they're not entirely too sure what they're going to do with Volpe coming out of the weekend. I'm like, oh, like that's interesting, right? And like you said, when Boone finally kind of addressed it even over the weekend himself, I'm like, okay, like this is actually probably going to happen. Um, it was just like one of those things where, and it sucks because I don't want to make it sound like I'm bashing him, right? But it's just one of those things where, um, how much more of a leash can you give a guy, right? And now I'm intrigued, and this isn't a discussion for the podcast today, but maybe in the coming weeks. But like now I'm intrigued to see what's the spotlight going to be kind of like on Austin Wells to a degree, where I don't know. He's done a lot of positive things this year. I don't want to make it sound like even, the past couple of years, like it's been all bad, but like we talked like last year about it, Kyle, like me and you, like where it's just like, Austin Wells should probably be thinking the fact that Anthony Volpe's in the lineup with him because it kind of masked a lot of stuff. And I think it might be a little bit this year of the same thing, just a little bit different where it's just like, well, the Yankees don't have really any other option but Wells right now at catcher in that sense. So like I said, it will be intriguing to see the next couple weeks how discourse maybe plays out over the other former top prospect for the Yankees.
Yeah, quickly on Austin Wells, he's finally over 200.
Yeah, yeah,
He's just you just see we've talked about this a bunch. You see the potential. I mean, everyone talks about the potential. There's literally flashes of it, streaks of it throughout the year, and then there's just long stretches where he doesn't give you anything really. Um, I mean, you just look even in his last 15 games, he has what is this? Well, he does have 11 walks, so I guess he is getting on base a little bit, but um, you feel like you can get more, and there needs to be more. And yeah, I think they'll still give him a long leash, but if we get to the point of like late into the year and he's still not hitting, I think it's worth doing something about. You can't just keep running it out here like this.
yeah. I would think it might be for sure position the Yankees will at least take a look at going into. It's crazy to say it this way, but like into the trade deadline. I mean, we're still
Yeah.
3 months away from it technically, but like it's one of those tough spot because I think Wells's defense is enough to keep him in the lineup no matter what in that sense. But that the bat's been the bigger issue to me the past couple of years, obviously. So we will see. Yeah, the funny part about this series coming up this week against Texas is the Yankees are pretty much seeing the same guys they saw last week, just up a day. So it's DeGrom, and then Evaldi again, and then they get to see Mackenzie Gore. So I got really not a ton on that series. I'm intrigued to see how the Milwaukee series kind of goes. Milwaukee's dealing with some injuries on their pitching side right now, so it's like I don't know what you're fully going to see out of them. I'm not really uber concerned with the Yankees, obviously, no matter what they do this week, as long as everything still kind of looks good and they keep the ship going in the right direction. Not saying I'm like, oh, I'll forgive a mess up, but um, my worry with them compared to say a month ago is just not where it was. So I'm just kind of like, okay, well, you know what to expect out of the Texas pitcher, and the Milwaukee thing just might be a little bit of a toss up because you just don't know what you might see going into the weekend.
Yeah, I don't think there's any concern right now. I mean, you look, it's just kind of frustrating though that they're playing so well and the Rays are right on their tail. The Rays are doing what the Rays always do. You look at the roster, you look at how, their market that they're in, and you just think that like, how are they where they are? They're 21-12. They're literally 9-1 in their last 10. And they're just 1.5 games behind the Yankees, while everyone else in the AL East is, 7 plus. So it's just you feel like the Yankees should have a better lead on the division, basically, is what I'm getting at 12 games over 500. And it's only at 1.5. So yeah, I'm just shocked by it, actually, even though it's very early.
Yeah, yeah, but hey, we're 4 days into May, so
Yeah.
who knows? Yeah, let's get over to the Mets stuff here. Like I said, it's tough because the past couple weeks for us has just been so much um of kind of saying the same thing. And if there is any quote unquote positive involving them, it's the fact that you had a 500 week. Um, you lose the series against the Nationals, you win the series against the Angels, but like I just feel like again the negatives from these games are just way outshining the positives. And it's tough, right? Because I think a lot of it is just like we're kind of just used to having to view it through this prism right now. But like, and I don't know, maybe this is a little bit working backwards too, but like that loss against the Angels on Saturday, right, is like a lot of bad decision making from the dugout, right? Like, how do you not challenge Soler, for example? I know it's a glaring point, sliding in the third. They're it's just one of those things where it's like, what are we doing? And I don't want to jump ahead, but like, I'm like, why are they doing a starter tonight? We're obviously we're talking on Monday, but like they're doing a starter tonight with Brazaban and then Peterson's gonna come in. Like, I'm like, what are we doing? Are you just doing the throw anything at the wall thing again here and showing that like you're willing to try stuff to save your job? Because like I mentioned you off air, Kyle, to me, like I personally feel like the Mets just might be doing a courtesy thing to Mendoza by not firing him until they get back east. I guess in a week's time, essentially.
Yeah, I really am stunned that we even got to May and he's still managing. Of course they won 2 out of 3 against the Angels, but the Angels are the Angels. I mean, it's just like when they beat the Twins 2 of 3 at home, and then what did they do after that? They got swept by the Rockies and won 1 out of 3 against the Nationals. So yeah, I don't think we can sit here and be like, oh wow, they took a series from the Angels, they're going to turn it around, because it's literally the complete opposite. And oh, by the way, now they're going to Denver, where apparently there's snow in the forecast,
Yeah,
and it's the Rockies who are playing well.
I forgot to mention that they moved tonight's game up 3 hours, and then tomorrow's
Yep.
game may or may not happen. Like, but that's a Tuesday discussion, I guess, in that sense. But like, I and even then, but like, how do you feel great about beating the Angels, like you said, Kyle? Right? Because like, even in their wins on Friday and yesterday on Sunday, like there was stuff in both games where it's just like, uh, not to say they should have lost like 1-0 yesterday or whatever, but like, they just things took a while to kind of get going a little bit, and stuff happens, and it's like, I, I don't know, man. Like, I hate viewing anything from such a negative lens the way that we kind of have to be with the Mets right now. But it's like they give you no other option. Like, it's just no other way to try and spin some positivity outside of, like I said, maybe outside of the fact that like some of their pitching again, like Noel McLean looked, in my opinion, looked good again over the weekend. Like, I don't know what else, how you can really spin some of the other stuff at this point when you have guys in the bullpen, for example, Luke Weaver, who have to go on, frankly, on the what I call offensively defensive for how things went for him. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where I feel like the Mets are just kind of beating us in the ground with being the Mets.
Yeah, that's the thing. Some of these guys are having positive results. Like Mark Vientos had a pretty good weekend. Um, but I mean, I guess it did result in 2 out of 3 wins. But overall, like this, the way the season started, it's all about winning games. Guys can have good stretches, but it's about team wins, and they're not getting enough team wins right now. And we just got actually word on 2 minutes ago. Juan Soto is leading off today for the third time in his career.
Okay.
So that's something. I guess they're trying to continue to, I guess, do whatever they can to shake things up. But yeah, so it hasn't happened since 21, and he only had one other time his rookie year. So Juan Soto, your leadoff hitter.
I I weirdly don't hate it, but like I just again, this guy just feels like Mendoza's throwing stuff at the wall and showing like, hey, I can change stuff. It's like, can you? Like, I don't know. I like I said, I don't hate it, but like I don't know. If you were going to do it,
Yeah,
why didn't you do it a week or two ago? Well, I guess it would have had for Soto's case, it would have had to have been a week ago, not 2 weeks ago. But I digress.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned it right. I mean, cool. You had a 500 week, which is technically an improvement based on how things have gone. But like you said, right, Kyle? I mean, the fact of the matter is you have to be not even so much team wins. You just have to be winning more than you're losing at this point now in the season. For them because they put themselves so much behind the 8 ball early that um I'm sorry. To me, I just don't think you can afford to win three and lose three and expect it to be fine. I don't see it. I can't view it through that prism.
And we talk and we know how bad the Mets have been. We mention it all the time. But just to put this in perspective, they just beat an Angels team who literally just has one more win than they do right now.
Yeah.
So as bad as the Mets have been, that's how bad the Angels have been. So again, can you really think positive about this series win? I don't think so. You need to see them go to Denver and actually win another series, and then we can start talking about potentially turning the corner.
And I think too, not to pound this again to the dead horse type of things, but like last week when we talked, they were tied with the Phillies in the standings, divisionally speaking. Philly had just fired Rob Thompson at the time, and Philly is now 6-4 in their last 10. I know it's not the full week or whatever in that is, but like, they've Mattingly comes in and stuff has shaken up a little bit of enough that like, okay, there's some trends in a good direction. Maybe not as much as they had hoped in immediately, but like, you now have shown that there is life here. You can do things. Like I said, part of me feels like they're just kind of being a courtesy here to wait until they get back east in a week. Boy, I just again, I don't know if you can afford to wait a week to fire Mendoza, but I
Well,
don't
it's
know.
funny adding to the Phillies, manager change. Sean Mattingly actually has them 5-1
Yeah,
since the change. And remember, we talked about when Joe Girardi got fired and Rob Thompson took over early in the year. I mean, it does work. The shakeup does work, and that's why it's kind of weird to me too. But I mean, David Stearns came out on Friday and basically committed to Mendoza, saying there will be no changes. It's not him; it's a roster thing. Which I was like, wow, so you're taking a shot at the roster here? That's kind of shocking.
but isn't that
Um,
and this goes back to
with the
someone.
payroll and stuff. And,
Yeah,
it's on the players, which I do agree.
yeah, but this goes back to something we talked a little bit about um last week on our kind of general sports podcast we do here on FL1, where if there is a fair out on Mendoza, it's just that. So it's like his Stearns essentially, I know he was more or less pinning it on the players, but that's also just on you, buddy. Like you're the one who put this team
Yeah.
together. Like, and
That's why I'm shocked he said that. He's like
yeah.
talking about himself.
So I don't know, and that's part of it too. And again, now at this point, it might be more of a discussion for maybe next week or 2 weeks down the line. But like I mentioned it last week a little bit too, where it's just like, okay, but like how much of this also just kind of goes back to Steve Cohen talking the game that he's been talking, and I, his results, frankly, the past 3 years have just not been what he himself says that he wants. Like I don't know. It's to me, it's crazy how you can fire off with the amount of gusto they have, or whatever you want to call it, and just be like, okay, cool, whatever, stuff's happening. Like that's just not. for what they have and what they're doing, and you can say everything about the payroll and blah 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 that you want. Just none of it's excusable to me at any of the levels. And like I said, I think a lot of this does fall on Mendoza, but like there's some pretty good blame to give to a lot of people also in this. Like let's not get it twisted. So all right. The Mets, like I said, so they're in Colorado, and then is it Detroit? No, Detroit's when they come back home in a week. That's on me.
Yeah.
Colorado and then Arizona. So yeah, things I don't know. The Arizona thing's weird to me. Colorado's been, as we said, been frisky for however reason and whatever reason. But to be fair, Arizona's a 500 team. I don't know. Like if you're like I've been saying, like I don't know what confidence I can give in any of these games for the Mets at this point. And that's the part that sucks. It's like I can't say a 500 a week would be successful for them because it just wouldn't. You know, at this point, you have to be winning your weeks. You have to be winning these series, and I don't know. I guess for me, until they prove me otherwise, I can't do it.
Yeah, I think they have to have a 4 and 2 week minimum, and I don't see it. I think they're gonna go like I'll say 3-3. I think they'll actually win 3 games somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you there. That's the part that sucks. It's like, but also like it just does nothing for them. So, oh well, that's life in
Yep,
Metland.
same place where they started.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll get out of here on that note this week. I got really nothing overall. It's my phone falls off its stand over here that I use for the stat stuff. Yeah, I got nothing else this week, Kyle. So we'll head out on this point. I know you gotta get ready for some Sabres hockey, man. Second round, Montreal. So
Yeah,
the border war. All right.
it's gonna be crazy.
I know. You're I don't know. Is that the matchup you wanted quickly? Got a second. Go ahead.
To be honest, I keep telling people this is be careful what you wish for type matchup. I thought the Lightning or Canadians was not a good draw. I think it's scary. Both teams are really good. I don't care that they're 1 goal games. I don't care that Montreal had 9 shots on goal last night. There's a reason why the teams finished with the same point total right in the regular season. You know, how like they played against each other. They're both just really good. And, the Sabres won their series and they dominated the Bruins at times. But again, nothing's going to be easy. So I'm just really worried about this series. And I just hope the Sabres play better at home because they did not play well at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Believe me from experience the past couple weeks, Dobis was by far the best player in that series against Tampa Bay. It's not close, the goaltender for Montreal. So, like you mentioned, you're right. It shouldn't matter what that differential is when you got a guy like that who played the way he did. Like you're have to figure out how to make opportunity and how to make chances. And I don't know, but why not Buffalo this year at this point? It's kind of my motto with them. So, all right, Kyle, enjoy that this week in addition to all the baseball. And we will talk again, everybody, next Monday. I got my brain crossed up for a second here. We're into May, so we have stuff officially coming up where we'll have to adjust schedules and stuff like that. So, but either way, Concrete Jungle, you'll find it here on fingerlakes1.com, the FO1 YouTube channel, the audio only feed on all major podcasting platforms. Enjoy the week, everybody, and we will talk again next Monday.